Welcome to Gold Derby's TV Sound Panel. I am Senior Editor Marcus James Dixon, and we are here with Patrick Hogan, Supervising Sound Editor on Netflix's Cobra Kai. So, Patrick, when you started production for season 5, what was your main challenge in bringing something new and innovative to the show's sound design for that penultimate year?
That really was, you kind of just listed what the challenge was, which was stay true to the show, right? Like, we have a very, very loyal, awesome fan base. So, I think it was in the writing and the production and post-production editing, and even the sound was, how do we give the fans what they want and stay true to that Cobra Kai feel and vibe, but also not just, give them a repeat of what we've heard and seen prior. So like in the episode that we submitted, we have another tournament, but there's a spin on this tournament, and that it's a private tournament just between two dojos fighting for the right to compete in this huge international tournament. So the stakes are higher, but the sound was actually a little bit smaller. The scope was smaller because they were fighting just in a dojo. And we couldn't rely on a big crowd to give us the energy of the scene, because it was just the two dojos, and half the people didn't cheer when something good happened to the other fighter, if you know what I mean, right? We couldn't have everybody cheering at once because they were, enemies. So it was a lot of like just little sound, little design things that we usually didn't have space for. We did a lot more, kind of low end textures, and they did a little bit more, I think, with kind of slow-mo and speed ramping in some of the fight scenes, because now we're at the point where we know that the people who are fighting are really, really good at karate. And so they can kind of get more into some of the cool moves. We did a little sound design moment. There's a moment, I don't know if anybody even caught it, but when Sam's fighting in that against Tori, she does a move that she learned from Chosen. And we never see him teach it, and we never even talk about it. But back in episode 2, at the end of that episode, when we see him fight, he does the move when he's fighting, and then she does the same move. So it's not one of those things like everybody's going to like notice it and like recognize it, but it's those little details like that. So we gave it a little extra sound tweak. Fortunately, it's been like a year, so I can't remember exactly what that tweak was, but we did a little thing to kind of emphasize, like, here's what's making these students so special. They're learning from now, not one master, not 2 masters, but 3 different masters they have 3 senseis who are teaching them. And here's Sam pulling off something that Chosen taught her. So little things like that, which again, it started all the way back with the writing, and we carried it all the way through to the sound stage.
And there's really, really impressive fight scene that takes place in the apartment complex between Miguel and Robbie. It's not just how well done the scene was, but what it means for the 2 characters who they're antagonistic toward each other. And this is the moment where they kind of gain respect for each other again. What can you reveal about that scene from the sound department's perspective?
Sure, that was so I believe that was the end of episode 5. And what's great is
extreme measures.
Yeah. Cobra Kai is kind of always designed to kind of have 2 5-episode season arcs. So episode 5 always has a big ending. There's also at the end of episode 5 a thing with Daniel. I don't know, for those, I don't want to, I guess everybody's seen it already, but yeah, the first fight between Daniel and Terry Silver. So the first 5 episodes, there was a Daniel arc, which leads them in a dark place. In the first 5 episodes, there was an arc between Miguel and Robbie, which had been building for seasons and seasons and seasons. And so one of the things that was challenging about that was not only was it kind of a long fight, and it also veered. Usually when we do the fights, the idea is that these are trained martial artists. We do an extra pass in Foley to, I call it the crisp cloth pass, which I talked to the Foley artist about, which is to give it that sense that the moves are very precise and not sloppy, right? They're doing kicks and punches that they've practiced hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So we want to give it this different feel. So on all the tournaments and whenever they're training, and even when they're fighting, but this one gets sloppy. The whole point is it's an emotional fight. It's not a tournament fight. And so we didn't do a lot of the things that we normally do in the fights. We didn't add that crispness. The punches got a little sloppy, a little meatier, just to show that it was more of a brawl than an actual tournament fight. And then the other thing that was a real challenge about it was the set that day, I don't know what happened. It was truck moving day, apparently. When they filmed this, and we had to loop the whole thing. So that's all ADR. So all the dialogue at the end, when they're having this big emotional moment, we were really worried because it's every actor's worst nightmare. A big emotional, like this is the end of 3.5 seasons of character development, and we're going to have to ADR all the lines. But Sholo and Tanner are like, they're really, I mean, they're very young, very talented actors, and they did a great job. And I don't think anybody watched the scene and went, oh, well, they recreated that on the stage after the fact. So I was very proud of that.
No, I couldn't even tell. I rewatched the episode last night. I had no idea. You fooled me.
Okay, good. One down, 10 million to go.
Yeah, the fight you mentioned between Daniel LaRusso and Terry Silver in Stingray's house, there were some bone breaks noises and some nose cracks. How do you go about making those sound so authentic?
Well, usually, as with most punches, it's always comprised of multiple elements. Because the final decisions are made on the stage in conjunction with the mixers and the executive producers, I've talked to them and I kind of know where they're leaning towards what they want in any given scene. But I always have to provide enough material so that if they zig at the last moment when we thought they were zagging, we're covered. I once had to cut 10 salt shakers sounds for Johnny because Josh was like, that's not the right sound. His salt shaker wouldn't make that sound. Like they can be very precise, which is awesome. I love it. So there were different elements. So there was a low end, there was a kind of meteor. Then there was, and I think on one of them, I don't remember which punch it was, they said that crack's not quite right. And so I kind of dug through, I've become used to this over the years with them. I kind of dug through a lot of different sounds that I thought would cut through the rest of the mix. This is a big score show. Zach and Leah write this great epic music. And usually for the 2 finale episodes, 5 and 10, they actually get an orchestra. So it's really lush and big. And so sometimes finding the right frequencies that will work with the music and cut through, find out where in the music do we have a space to kind of slip in this important sound. So it was really just balancing all those things until we got the level where it came through. And it was probably a little bit big, but that's kind of the Cobra Kai way. It's realism, and then we take it up one notch from there. But also it was supposed to be Terry Silver is a mean guy, and he's going to hurt Daniel Russo, hurt him to the point where he basically quits and gives up. And so that was very intentional to make sure it sounded very brutal and maybe bigger. And maybe Daniel should have been in the hospital a little bit longer after that fight. But that's kind of how we do it. We kind of have the different layers, and then we kind of adjust them until we feel like we've hit the right sweet spot with them.
Yeah. And you were nominated at the Emmys for the past 2 seasons of Cobra Kai. What do you remember most about those Emmy experiences? Were you able to attend the ceremonies?
It was so proud. Cobra Kai is a big show with big heart and a small budget. Like it started as this little show that nobody knew about. And it was kind of like big IP, but no one knew if this was really going to take off. So it's always been done very small. And what we accomplish with basically kind of almost like a sitcom level budget is, it blows my mind. So to get recognized and get to go was really something. The first year was the year of the pandemic, and it was it was the second year. So it was you could attend, but you couldn't bring anybody, and there was no party, there was no food or drink or anything. It was really just you got to sit there and take it in and experience it. But then last year was the return of, I got to impress my wife and wear a nice suit, and I got dressed up and got to go have fun and got to see other people that we hadn't seen in years because of the pandemic having kept us all kind of working remotely. So it was great to get to see the teams for the other shows and, talk afterwards and eat and laugh and talk. And that part, the communal aspect of it, was the part that I loved the most. I missed that.
And is there anything you can tease about season 6? It's the last season. Fans are going to be very, very, emotional.
Season 6 is gonna be epic. I keep myself intentionally in the dark about a lot of things because I'm a fan. I'm also a fan of Ted Lasso. I just want to say I love that show. So shout out to Ted Lasso. I'm I'm a huge fan of the show. So one, I kind of like being surprised. And then two, I kind of like it whenever possible watching a show, an episode kind of fresh because my ears don't know what's coming. And so I can provide some real honest feedback on what sounds are working, what sounds aren't working. Is that line of dialogue clear? Is it not clear? Sometimes I have to read a script ahead of time, but a lot of times I try to be surprised. So I don't know for sure, but I know it's going to be big. And I also can say this, Cobra Kai never dies. Just because Cobra Kai is ending doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of that world. So just remember, Cobra Kai never dies.
That is an amazing tease. And thank you for chatting with us, Patrick. We will see you in a little bit at the group panel.
Thank you very much.